So we've all gone through the hiring process, or we've hired someone new to the team, and I'm sure all those questions are familiar. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why is it that you want to work for this office? How long have you been practicing? And regardless of the answers to those questions, for some reason, as time goes on, the person just didn't seem like they were the right fit for the office. We're going to give you 10 questions you can ask to ensure that you're hiring the right fit the first time.
At the Dental MVP, we use science to teach people skills to you, the dental professionals. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel, The Dental MVP, and don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss out.
Research has shown that interviewers typically make their decision about an interviewee candidate within the first few seconds, and then they spend a majority of the interview trying to confirm what their beliefs are from the beginning. A lot of times we ask questions that help us determine if we like the person that we're interviewing, which is a very gut feeling kind of instinct that we think about. And that comes from a specific component of our brain. Now, if we pause and we ask questions that are more targeted towards behavior, it helps us to better identify if they are going to be a fit for the task, for the office, for the personalities that they're working with. So if we're really subjective with our questions, which is going to be the first tip, we can ensure that we're getting a better candidate for the position we're hiring for.
Let's go through questions that you can ask that's really going to help dive deeper into whether or not this person is going to be the right fit for the job that you have at task. Question number 1 is, what is something you used to believe in your career of dentistry and no longer believe? Now, asking a question like this is really going to help you to understand someone's ability to adapt to change, right? If they say to you, well, I used to believe in the Easter Bunny and now I don't anymore, that's pretty limited. We're talking about your career here. What's something that you used to believe in and no longer believe in anymore? Now, Chassie had a great example. When we were in hygiene school, we always thought, okay, I have to remove all of the calculus as possible. Like, the patient is here, they cannot leave this chair until I remove it. In the real world, we know that we're going to do the best that we can for every patient as possible. And it might mean multiple appointments and multiple times for them coming back. That's something that we've learned through our career and that we've had to shift our mindset and shift our comfortability with that situation. Now, the learning curve in dentistry is really big, and there's a huge difference from practice to practice. How often have you had a team member that you recently brought on and they always say, at my old office, we did it ... And at my practice, we didn't do it that way. We hear that nagging voice all the time. And this is something that we want to make sure that we are avoiding. We want someone who comes into our practice to be able to adapt to our belief system and our culture. And asking a question such as this is going to help you gauge whether or not they have that easy ability to transform.
Question number 2 is, how did your last office differentiate itself? It's important that every employee that you're bringing on can show that they are aware of the greater picture, that they know more about what it was than just their one specific role in the practice, that they're able to see the whole, so that they knew what the goals of the team were, what the mission was, and how it was that that practice they were in differentiated itself from others. Because we want to make sure that we're bringing on team members that can recognize a why and are cohesive in a team culture aspect as well.
Question number 3 is, tell me about the best and worst day at work. Now, asking a question like this is really going to help you to know what drives a person and what stresses them out. Their best day is going to tell you about what motivates them, what drives them, what really makes them tick. And their worst day is going to let you know what stresses them out really easily. Now, a simple example of this is going to be, you ask someone and they say, my best day was a day that I got through all of my patients on time. In fact, maybe even a little early, no interruptions, great day. And the worst day was a day where I was running 20 minutes behind the entire day, didn't get a lunch, didn't get everything done that was on my list. Now you have a good insight into this person's personality. Also, if you listen to the way that they describe their worst day, what do they talk about? Do they talk about themselves? Do they talk about others? Do they talk about the solutions that they might have had or that others had? You can tell a lot about an individual's personality from the conflicts that they've had and what they feel really was something conflicting. Now, another thing that you can do is have a good understanding of what would be a good answer to this question. Because there's so many different personalities in your practice, you want to know who's going to fit. What's a good day? What's a bad day look like in your practice? So ask the same question to your current employees. Ask some of your top performers what their best and worst day is in the practice. And if the person that you're interviewing has very similar best and worst days, well, then you know you got a good fit.
Question number 4, if I called your current office, what is it that they would say about you? Now, this is a really intense question that will get someone's blood flowing, but it's good because it will show you how it is that they react under pressure. It also shows you how it is that they talk about themselves. Do they boost themselves up? Are they kind of down on themselves? Are they a smooth talker? And lastly, it also shows you how it is that they'll talk about their former boss. Mm-hmm. This is important because it gives you an idea of how they handled that relationship. If they are talking about how absolutely wonderful their previous employer was and praising them and giving an explicit reason for why it is that they're choosing to move on, whether it's growing their career or whatever it may be, it's great because you can tell that there was a good relationship there. If they hold a lot of resentment, you can tell that there was probably a lot of tension before the switch was made. So it just cues you into how it is that they processed that previous relationship and how it is that they handled it. Now, you'll get a lot of honesty out of this question as well, because there's that concern that you might actually call their previous office and ask the questions. So this is a really good question, even though it may seem a little intense.
Question number 5 is, are you working on anything exciting outside of work? The reason why we ask questions like this is just to get to know the person that we're interviewing a little bit more intimately. It doesn't really relate to their work experience, but just them as a person. You can tell a lot by asking this personal question to somebody. Do they kind of freeze up and get uncomfortable with this question? If so, then this person probably is not going to be comfortable sharing their life story with everyone within the practice. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's a good fit. Maybe you don't want that person that's going to be talking about their life all day long and be the gossip queen. But you want to be able to get an idea of what do they do outside of work. Maybe it's a really good cultural fit. Maybe they have a lot of similarities to some of your team members, and you can just create that connection for them already in the interview process.
It also lets you know if they're introverted or extroverted based on the tasks that they're doing or the things that they find to be fun outside of work. So if you know that your team itself is very introverted or very extroverted, they love to go out, everybody always gets dinner together, there's always happy hours after work. Like, you'll know that that person could be a good fit. Whereas if they're very introverted, it might be something that's uncomfortable for them. And it might not be the ideal fit. It might be okay either way, but at least it cues you into what that would look like in the long term for your team as well.
What would you like to achieve in your career? Now, this is a great question to ask because we want to know, is this office a stepping stone towards something else? A lot of times we forget to ask this question, and plenty of times you have an individual who might be an amazing dental assistant, a great part of your team, who has always wanted to go to hygiene school and leaves you for hygiene school. While it's great to see them grow and develop, it's something that you want to know in advance. It's also great to know what their intentions are in developing themselves and in their career so that you can know if this is a good fit for your team and your business's growth.
If you didn't have to work, why is it that you would come into the office? So this question dives directly into their motivations and their values. It's really important to identify these. Does somebody come into work because of the relationships that they have with their colleagues and with their patients? Do they come in because they really love to learn, that they're passionate about self-growth and challenging themselves consistently? As an employer, knowing someone's values is a key way that you're going to be able to motivate them and ensure that you're able to reach the practice goals and that they're aligning with the values of the practice as well. Describe the last significant conflict that you had at work. So nobody likes conflict. And this is a pretty common question that we ask. So it's easy for people to have pretty scripted responses or ways that they anticipate that they will answer the question. So it's important as you ask this question to be prepared to ask follow-up questions and to delve deeper into detail to get a better understanding of how the situation was handled. Now, because this one can be a somewhat scripted response, you do have to take what it is that someone is telling you with a bit of a grain of salt. And it's important that you reference kind of in conjunction those other questions that you've asked to get a deeper understanding of the person's personality. So understanding what their best and worst day was at work or what it is that their previous office would say about them. All of those details combined will give you a better culminating answer for this question. but it is important to understand how someone handles conflict and what it is that they would define as conflict. For them, is conflict being asked to do something that goes against what it is that their role is in the practice, or is it more of an interpersonal, finding ways to resolve conflict between people?
When you're finalizing your interview and you're asking that last question, the final question is there something that I didn't ask you that I should have? Now, this is giving them the opportunity to shine, to dive a little bit deeper, or to ask you questions, perhaps. If you followed all these questions really well, you didn't really give them the space and the ample amount of time to dive deeper into things. We were asking very specific questions. Now it's their time to ask you questions or to dive deeper into stories. You really want somebody who opens up a little bit more, who asks some more questions, who wants to go back and tell you a little bit more about something. Now, you also can be really careful with this because you might get the person who wants to really dive deep into the answers that they were giving and boast a lot and talk a lot and really go into things. You can learn a lot from someone by asking this question. You might get the opposite side of the spectrum where somebody just goes, nope, I'm good. And that might mean that they're a little bit timid to come out, and they might be that introverted person who doesn't want to say something that they're not supposed to, and they're just kind of checking the list and that's it. There's nothing wrong with either of these answers, but it's going to let you know, again, is this the right person for our team and for our practice and everything that we're looking for?
Every answer is a behavioral clue, so make sure that you listen to your candidate's response and watch how they respond. Science shows that 60% of our responses are nonverbal, so don't only pay attention to those answers they give you, even if they are wonderful and well scripted. Make sure that you're paying attention to their body language as well.
Those nervous gestures, those little tics, the things that the giveaways, right? Are you uncomfortable? Are you not comfortable? Even though you might sound really confident, do you look like you might be insecure? Make sure to really look at the individual, pay attention to their body language and all those nonverbal cues that we give you in those interviews. Do you have any questions that you ask that you have found are kind of atypical that really show you if someone's going to be the right fit or not? Make sure to leave us a comment and let us know what those questions are. Did you like this video? Don't forget to like it and never forget to subscribe to our channel, The Dental MVP.